Hello,
Alright.
guys. Today we are joined by Nicolas. He's the CEO of Team Vitality, one of the leading global sports organizations. You are going to talk about his career, his journey, and how he started in esports. I would like first to welcome and join by Giovanna, our hostie.
Hi.
Uh, First of all, thank you very much, Nicolas. It's a really pleasure to have you here. I just never imagined that I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is like I did a really small briefing about you, but I would like for you talk for us your career. Tell a little bit more about who is Nicholas and how he started in esports.
Sure. So good to see you, and thanks for having me. So it's a long story, but I will go back to the roots of my journey in esports. So before starting esports and starting Vitality in 2013, I had a previous professional life, very different one, nothing to do with esports. I was a video editor on TV, French TV, working for a lot of TV shows. And I frankly didn't know much about esport at the time. So early 2010, those years, I only heard about Elki, the French StarCraft player that went to South Korea to play the StarCraft leagues, and it was completely new to me, and it was super impressive because the guy was kind of a genius of the game. He was a French champion, and he was the first, I think, foreigner or one of the first going to South Korea to play StarCraft. So it was crazy to hear about that, but it was just a story. And didn't have really big ideas or understanding of what esports was at the time. And then in my life as a video editor, in my daily job, I had a new, I think it was 2012. I had a new assistant editor. So they tell me, hey, this is your new guy. We'll work with you. Cool. And this guy his name Fabien. And I started to realize working with this guy, he was 18 at the time, that when he went to the office on the Monday, he was always super tired. So I wondered if he was a big party guy or anything. And I asked, what are you doing with your spare time? And he told me, hey, I'm managing an esport team and I travel to tournaments every weekend. I'm everywhere in Europe. And I was like, what's that? Tell me about that. And at the time, he used to be a pro player, which was not really pro at the time. You know, it was not really structured and everything. He was playing Gears of War. Then he transitioned to Call of Duty. He was one of the coaches in the French Call of Duty scene. And then he transitioned to manager. And at the time when we met, 2012, he was managing a team in Call of Duty, team called AAA, AAA, Triple A, whatever, which is an historical team of CS in France. And those guys at the time, they realized that Call of Duty and console esports was starting to get big and get traction. So they wanted a piece of console esports. So they hired the best Call of Duty players in France, and Fabien was the manager for that team. And the players among them was Gotaga, which is still to this day one of the biggest streamers in France. So Fabien tells me, I'm managing this team. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And he tells me, hey, you want to see a LAN? You want to see a tournament in Paris? There is one next week. Come. So I dropped by, and then I realized a whole new world of a lot of young people completely excited about the tournament, about the players. And the most fun part was that Fabien, in the daily job, he was an 18-year-old new guy. No one was really paying attention to him. But in that tournament, suddenly was Neo, and you had a tons of young people saying, hey, I want a picture with you. So he was already a star, and I had no idea. And then that's when I started to realize that, wow, but esports that's something's going on. It's really impressive, the level of excitement, passion, everything. And if you recall, 2012, 2013 is when YouTube gaming started to get really big. So you had the first big names, big streamer on the one side on Twitch and big content creator in gaming. Twitch in France was already there, but in 2013, I think that's the first moment they started to have an ad network so the streamers could really monetize the live streams. So it was a big moment in France for that. And obviously, League of Legends was starting to get super popular. So all of that was the moment in time where esport was exploding. Um, And so I started to get interested, went to tournaments and everything. And I was hearing Fabien saying, hey, I went from Millennium, all the teams at the time in France, they're all super bad. They have no idea of what they're doing. I could do better myself so easily. But he was 18 and he was saying that, but he had no idea about creating a company or stuff like that. But at some point, I told him, hey, but I start to think esports is super interesting. Maybe there's something to be done in that universe, in that ecosystem. Let's do something together. And that's how it started. I told Fabien, because I'm much older than Fabien, at least 6 years older. Or even more. I don't recall exactly. But anyway, I'm older than him. And at the time, I wanted to start an entrepreneur journey. I was a bit tired of the work, not super excited anymore for the work. So I'm like, that sounds good. That looks good. Let's try. And at the time, it was not really risky because we started Vitality. We were still keeping our daily job. So it was all the evenings, all the weekends, all the time that we could grab for that side project at the beginning. And so the idea of running his own team materialized. So we started and launched in a live stream in the summer of 2013. And then it very quickly picked up. Fans were really excited about that project because there were players that they liked already. There was Neo. We were already super professional in terms of the content we could output because it was our work and our daily job. So we had really strong ideas of what we needed to do to have fun sharing the journey. And that's how Vitality started and how I started esports 13 years ago.
That's awesome. And I would like to know for you, how was to know about like you're getting big? Like how is for you, when you realize that you have fans and you have like a big organization and really like you have so much fans here in Brazil. I don't know if you have this much of idea, but I would like to know how was for you in the beginning, like when you realize, okay, I'm getting bigger now, like I recognize that.
I think it's a very good question, especially because for us, there was one specific moment, a big turning point that was kind of a realization that we were getting somewhere and having something in our hands. As I said, we started with Gotaga, which was very popular. Obviously, it's even more popular those days. Not with us, but he was extremely important at the beginning of Vitality. And it was having him was a big shortcut to draw fans and get them interested in the project, right? And many people, when Vitality started, were associating Vitality and Gotaga, a bit of the same thing for them. But what happened is that at the time, Call of Duty scene was not really professional, and you would see the teams forming and breaking all the time. And one bad result, one weekend, boom, we need a roster change. There is an anecdote on that, is that Fabien, he was even scared to go 2 hours see a movie in a cinema because he was like, hey, I will turn my phone on and the team will have completely dismantled in the meantime. So things were happening all the time, player change all the time and everything. So it was really messy, not the level of professionalism we see today, but it was just the state of the scene overall. And at some point, Gotaga was not happy with the result, the other players, and he told us one day, I leave the project. And for us, it was the biggest shock because we were doing this together and we never really envisioned that he could simply leave to go to play to another team. But at the end of the day, it's what happens with players. He had the right to do that. Okay, so it was a huge shock, and we were starting to say, oh, it's the end of the world, it's over, all of that. But then why it was a big moment for us is that we started to realize when we announced to partners, they were all having the same reaction. Wow, that's obviously a very tough news for the project, but we still believe in you guys. You have something special in your hands. We like it. It's fine. We'll manage. And all the partners were having that reaction. And the fans were obviously super sad, but there were tons of messaging saying, okay, Gotaga, he does what he wants and we love him, we'll follow him, of course, but we also love what you guys have built. Vitality is something special. We love the brand and so on and so forth. So we needed that difficult moment to realize that Vitality existed on its own with a community very attached to what we were doing, And it was a huge moment, huge realization. And then obviously it kept on growing in terms of fandom everywhere in the world. You mentioned Brazil. It's obviously nowadays very true also in China and in other countries. Wherever we go, we see and we meet with fans. So it's an incredible feeling. But yes, there were a lot of steps to getting there, and especially a moment where we realized that we had made something unique.
Great. I love that.
I'm not hearing you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. You're back. Cool.
I really like it because I started almost at the same time of you. In 2010, I was a Dota player.
Okay.
And what you said about they finish the team and come back, it happens all the time in Brazil too.
Yes.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, in 2020, 2012, there was a ESWC. Now they have a EWC.
Yes.
In that time they have
Yes.
ESWC. And we get like the invitation to play in French. And 1 week before, the team say that we are not going to play anymore.
The
And they
team
say,
disbanded.
no,
Wow.
please, guys,
Yes,
it's like
yeah.
our dreaming to play this tournament, and you say that. And because of this band, we start the pen game that I think you know from Brazil, pen game.
Yes.
Yeah, but because of this band, so in the final, it was going just one guy from the team. I had to find other 4 guys to play for this team. And they said
crazy.
like, oh my God, I don't want it. I don't want to do it anymore. But because of that, I think for you, it was a huge difference to work in a, I would say, corporative company to eSport. For you, what was the biggest challenge to make this transition? What was the hardest part for you?
Exactly what you mentioned. I mean, when you work in whatever field that's professional, that's here for years, you have a certain set of rules, you have expectations on people behavior, and obviously different industries will work in different ways, but there is a baseline of expectation. If I need to show up at 10 a.m. for that meeting, I will show up at 10 a.m. for that meeting. That's the rule. No one will even think that you will not join that meeting unless you have an emergency or whatever. And then going into that world of players, very young, immature, inexperienced, very good guys and nice guys with a lot of energy and incredible skills and everything, but not use that all to such a framework of very simple rules. So you go from the normal life, normal world, you go into esports, and what the fuck is going on? Like, I try to come with ideas and rules of things we need to do. Nothing works. Nothing is applicable. No one would be even interested in such planning, schedule, rules, whatever. It doesn't work. That was the first key learning. But my huge chance that I had here was that I was working with Fabien, and he knew players inside out. And at some point, I needed to realize, hey, I would love for things to work this way, but it will not work this way. So I need to adapt. I need to be flexible, all the while still trying to raise the level of professionalism and expectation. But we were starting from a very low, I would say, like in terms of expectation and professionalism. So it took a while. It was quite difficult to adapt and realize, hey, people will not behave like in a corporate or professional environment. You need to adapt. You need to find ways to make them interested in certain things, to show up to a video for a partner. You expect that they have a contract and they will do X, Y, Z because part of the contract, but no, they are not interested. They don't wake up. They're like, why should we do that? Like, I want to play. All of those things that I think are long gone. When I see the state of the professionalism of players today, sure, they might not like to do a 3 partners activation or a big media day, but they will do it. They understand it's part of the job, and that's it. It's not perfect. Sometimes they will tell you, hey, it's too much. We need to, that's fine. But at least everyone understands it's part of the expectations and the job. At the time, it was not the case at all. And by the way, I think that's impressive to me. For example, when I think about Apex, because Apex was obviously is an old-timer. He had played in esports for so many teams for so many years. But Apex is kind of one of the guys that perfectly adapted from that very amateur world where, in a way, the players were the team, organization were more like sponsors. But the fate of the team, the roster, the decision, the tournaments to participate in, everything was decided by players. And in a way, the organization were signing checks. and no organization are really employing the players, deciding which tournament, what's the schedule, what do we need to do for media partners. All of that completely changed. And Apex is one of the guys that adapted to that new world. And I think that's part of the reason that it's still here and still incredibly performant. Whereas other players, for example, old-timers on the CS scene, they could not adapt. They still thought it would work the old way, and they are not here anymore for many years. So that's interesting to see that some people managed to adapt and understand that the world was changing, and some others could not.
Awesome. And I would like to know for you, what is define a successful organization? How is a because you have like a very solid organization, and what it defines for you? What do you think every organization needs to have to be successful?
So what defines a successful organization, I would say, is three things that go obviously together. One is the sport legacy and success, and that means specifically winning certain key trophies. That's the way you become a special organization. You can be a good organization that wins here and there in certain games, and that's fine. But some achievements, they put you in another dimension. Obviously, we can think about T1. You win worlds so many times. You're a very unique organization in League of Legends. That's done. What we're doing in Counter-Strike right now is exactly the same. And you would have other examples of that. But key achievement, the key wins, the worlds, the majors, the international, I think maybe right now in Dota, it has less and less prestige associated to it. It's not what it used to be, but winning TI at the time when OG, for example, did the back-to-back, that's just incredible achievement that put you in the legendary status when it comes to the success. So that's one thing. Obviously, the brand. Having a brand that people connect with, that they love, and obviously that's more complex than just a name and a logo. It's also associated with certain players. When you can have, I was mentioning T1, but you can have players that are so strongly associated to your brand. Same for us with Zywul. So brand players, the faces of the brand, they need to be special and unique. So that's part of the success. And then the business that you build around all that, thanks to the success, thanks to the strengths of your brand. How do you monetize and how do you attract fans and monetize them? The business component is very key because you can have the rest, but if you're not turning it into a business, that you won't be there anymore after a certain time. So success is all of that. So crazy, the biggest titles, the super engaged fans, that goes with the strong brand and the business that you generate around those fans, brand, and results.
That's
Really
great.
nice. Yeah. We have a question for people who was watching that I really like it, so I'd like to ask you. But before that,
Sure.
you told a little bit about Apex. I don't know if you know, but Apex here is like a legend. Everyone loves him.
He is a legend. He
He's a
deserves to be that.
legend. Everyone talk about him. He's like so famous here. Leticia asked for you, like, what were your key priorities in the beginning of the Team Vitality, in the earlier of the Team Vitality?
What's the question? The key priority, you said?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So a few things. First of all, we realized a few things after the first years. We realized, or we guessed, I don't know exactly, that in esports, at the end of the day, you would have the really big teams and then a big gap and then the rest of the world, so the good teams. And we thought we need to be a top team worldwide, otherwise it's not worth it. And why I say that is that it's so different and so much bigger in terms of exposure, brand, business you can generate if you're a top team in the world, if you're Real Madrid, a Man U, whatever, PSG versus being Marseille or Lyon. I take the French example. Maybe some people will hate me for that, but there's such a gap between those two kind of teams. And it's so exciting to be one of the biggest, and it's not super exciting to be just a good org. And why I say that and why it's important is that at several points in the early history of Vitality, we made choices that could have killed the company, but those were gambles where we said we need to do that because that's the way we get big. or we die. But if we don't do anything, we stay good, we are okay, but that's not exciting to us. So we'd rather take the risk of crashing everything, dying, but that's the only way to be a big org. And luckily for us, it worked. So we made some big bets, big gamble, notably going to League of Legends in end of 2015. Going to CS was kind of the same, but a bit less risky because we had funding at the time. We were more structured. When we went to League, we had no funding. We had to find money super quickly. It could have killed the company in many ways. We were extremely lucky at some point to have a partner, a brand calling us, say, I want to sponsor your team. In real life, that never happens. And basically, they saved a full year of vitality. And at the time, we had no investor. So if we didn't get this, probably I would not be there today. But overall, the summary of that is that we understood quickly that we needed to take huge risk to exit the world of just being a console org. We want to be a big PC org. We want to be on League. Down the road, we want to be on CS also. And we were ready to go all in to achieve those goals.
Great. That's awesome. And I would like to know, because you're a CEO of a big organization, so I have to ask, how is for you when you are looking for a player, and what is more valuable for you, like the performance of the player, but or take someone new who has a big potential of growing up, like in developing the games, or someone is already solid, already famous, already a good player? What is best for you? How team vitality looks for the player?
I think the answer to that question really depends on the status of your team.
Mhm.
I will take two examples. It's very simple. I have CS, I have League of Legends. In CS, we are the kings, we are the best. In League, we struggle. We have been struggling for a few years. When I look at CS, right now the team is perfect, so I don't want to do any change, but we go back to the moment we switched Spinks for Robs. You cannot throw in that team young players with potential. You could, but you will lose 1 year. And when you have potentially the best team in the world, you cannot afford to lose 1 year. You bring exceptional players. And we are lucky enough that the team is so good, the org has the right reputation, that players want to join. So in this scenario, you don't take big gambles. You go to Robs, which is an incredible winner, one of the greatest players, riflers to touch that game. Easy. The hard part is is he out of contract? Can we convince him to join? All of that. But the picking players like that is kind of an easy decision. Then you need to make it happen. But it's really different in other games. For example, in League of Legends, if I call the best players, the Robs of League, they will say, hey, it's cool, but I will go play with G2 or with KC because they have better rosters, they have better history of success in the game. So it would be nice to have established top players, but we have to do differently. And we have to make do bets, gambles, try to identify underlying potential on players. And sometimes it works. Right now we have Naknako in League of Legends. The guy is a monster. We had him in our academy team. We knew he had potential, but let's say he exceeded expectation. He's probably our franchise players for the years to come. He's incredible. But for one guy that explodes like that and become an incredible player, we also have a lot of players we believed a lot in and that didn't really materialize their potential, and that happens. So we had very bad years in League, betting on potential talent that didn't really work out. They didn't develop the way we envisioned. They didn't adapt to that specific team working together. Sometimes it was the fact that they were not ready. Sometimes it was the fact that they were probably not the right profile. Sometimes we were not successful in creating the right environment for that specific guy to succeed. Variety of reasons, but that's it. So I don't think there is one answer. At the end of the day, the trend you will see is that the bigger orgs will most likely go with established players, and the orgs that are good at building talent that have less resources will take those gambles. You can think about Ants historically in CS. They were super good to detect talent and then sell those guys to bigger team. Heroic, for example, also. So there is no clear answer. You need to adapt. which org you are, what's your level of success in a given game, and what are the players you have access to. Sometimes you identified perfectly the players you need, but they would say, hey, thank you, I go play somewhere else. So
I
Awesome.
understand.
Uh, Still talking about the players, I have another question of the people who is watching. And Walter asked for you, how do you analyze your team performance in a daily basis? Like it's more about how they performance in the tournament, it's the content, it's both at the same time. Because now we know that esports, if you just play, it's not enough. You have to do content for the internet, you have to be part of the community. How do you analyze this performance of the player?
yeah, so first of all, when we pick players, we want to assemble the best teams. That always goes first. So I will not pick a player that's just popular but will not contribute to the team. That's key. Performance goes first. And at the end of the day, we believe that if we're winning the biggest tournaments, that will generate attention and hype and interest. And we can also create stardom on players that don't immediately have it. So performance goes first. But what you see, obviously, and content, video, social media recognition, having characters in the team is super important. So that's several aspects. First of all, you want to have players that have personalities, but personalities that go well together. And I think what we have in CS is incredible. I put aside the level that's displayed by the guys because obviously they're the best. But having Apex, that the most dynamic guy that will be a showman. He will be in an arena full of Brazilians against Furia and say like that to the 15,000 people. He has done that in Denmark versus Astralis. It's crazy to watch a guy like that. And you have Zayu, that's the most humble guy, will never say anything disrespectful or anything. It just will just focus on his performance and be the best in the world. They go so well together. It's a perfect combination. So that's great when we have that. And having leaders like Apex that have character that can drive the team is key. So obviously, it's not only the performance on the server that you analyze, it's also what they bring to the team dynamic in terms of their personality, their capability to be leaders, or to simply be able to be a team player, follow the rules. You have players that are extremely talented, but that don't fit well in teams because of their ego or expectation or insecurities, whatever reason. So that's also a huge component. How do you behave in a team? What kind of alchemy you're creating with the others? And then onto the content part, at the end of the day, it's great when we have players that have huge social media following. I see it more as a bonus. That's not the reason we hire people. Then it's on us also, our marketing team, our partnership team, and everyone to find the right ways to create the right content that make the fan happy, the partners happy. So it's a big job on the brand marketing side to leverage what we have, the personalities, and create the right content. But that comes second in a way. For us, at least, as a very performance-driven organization. And that might be different for influencers teams that have different approach to that topic.
Amazing. I I want to know how it's for you. Like you're in Brazil, you have amazing Brazilian fans here. We love your team, and we want to know how the Brazilian audience affect your organization. Like if you have strategies for the Brazilian fans, something like the Brazil is for the team vitality.
First of all, I think Brazil is very similar to France in the sense that there is a tons of esports fans, extremely engaged, extremely proud of their own teams, of their country, of their players. So I see a lot of similarities and then also a good rivalry between both countries exist in sports. Obviously, I grew up with France winning World Cup in 1998 against Brazil in France. So the sports rivalry, I know it from since I was a child. It's a big moment for French sports. So I think it's very similar. So I immediately like that culture and that level of excitement and engagement. And it's crazy on Twitter and everything. We had so many good moments, bad moments with the Brazilian fans along the years. Like, I don't know, we had a lot of dramas where Brazilian fans were super unhappy about whatever results or whatever thing we said. And they were on Twitter saying, hey, we hate you, Vitality. And sometimes it was the opposite. So overall, lot of love, lot of hate, depending on the moments, but a lot of excitement and a great community overall. No, we don't have a very specific approach to the Brazilian market. It's more opportunistic. Why I say that is that on certain markets where we have local teams, like what we have in Indonesia, we build a specific strategy to bring the brand, but everything is centered around the local team we have. Then we can build storylines, activations around that, like our Mobile Legends female team, for example, is huge for Vitality, and we can create a huge strategy to attract the Indonesian fans because we have the best team in Mobile Legends female, for example. For Brazil, we contemplated to enter the space many times. For example, in Rainbow Six, which obviously is very popular, and we've seen the success of FaZe, Liquid, NIP, I think at some point, I don't recall, but the Western org have done a good job establishing local headquarters, local teams, and starting to develop a business around that. So there were many moments where we thought, hey, maybe we'll do that. And still something we'll look at. If in the future there is a good opportunity to have a local team, I think I'd be excited to do that. That has not happened yet. So in the meantime, what we do is more opportunistic. When we're on the ground, we want to make content with the local fans, with local athletes, or everything like what we're doing right now. I think we're creating a ton of content with our partner Stake. They have Brazilian athletes. So a lot of cool things are happening right now. I don't know what's already released or not, so whatever. But anyway, the idea is that we interact with fans here. We see that fans ultimately love us. They love ZywOo, they love Apex. There's a ton of interaction and many moments where we had the best stats on tweets or social publication were centered around the Brazilian esports. So I don't have the clear examples right now, but there were crazy moments. I think there was something at some point where Ubisoft was inviting one team to the Six Invitational. So the Six was initially called Six Invitational, but after a while it was you qualified for the Six. But I think in I'm not sure, it's a while ago, 2019, 2020, at some point they needed one more team to round up the list of teams for the Six. And it was between one French, us, and one Brazilian team. And I think it went crazy on socials. It went way beyond esports. In Brazil, you had personalities tweeting and pushing. And in France also, you had Macron tweeting. You have big sports guy in France saying, no one had any idea what it was about, but it was France versus Brazil. And I think it was the poll or the survey with the most answers on Twitter at the time. I need to find this thing. It was insane. So a lot of cool stories. And a country and esports scenes that we like a lot. And on top of that, recently, I think there were many good games against Furia on CS, so very good rival. And when we did the Chinese tourney in November, we lost the Chengdu final against Furia. So good rivalry, and I'm very close to Jamie at Furia, and we had this big bet to see who would win the Budapest Major, and we came out on top, but we're good friends.
Nice. Andy, what you told it is so Brazilian, because like Brazilian, especially on the internet, they are so passionate. So
yes.
At the same time that you are the best, in the next day, if you lose, you are the worst. Yes. You have to leave everything. Andy, my question is, I'm going to still talking about Brazil and LATAM specifically. For you, how important is for especially CS2 tournaments be like in countries like that, Brazilian or LATAM? Because I'm not sure, but I think 90% of the tournaments from CS are in Europe. But how important it's better for the community to change a little bit about, not just for Brazil, but change the content, the continent for LATAM, for America, for, I don't know, Asia.
Yeah. I think that's the big trend right now in CS. We're going away from the historical organization of the CS calendar and schedule, where it was, yes, vast majority of European events. And obviously in Europe, we have the most legendary events, Cologne, Katowice, now in Krakow. That's great. We have those key moments in a year, but we lacked a bit those tournaments elsewhere. And I think right now there's a big push for new continent, new region to have much more tournaments. We see Asia, Shanghai Major recently, Singapore Major end of this year, Shanghai Major next year, Blast Hong Kong, IEM Chengdu. So big push for Asia in general on CS, which is crazy because you don't have that many local teams or local star players. It's mostly fans of Western or of fans of CS overall, but it's still completely full events. It's crazy. And I think for Brazil, it's great also. Obviously, having the major was insane. You have roughly one big IEM event a year. I think Blast did an event once, and I think we will have an Argentinian major next year. So it's a big trend right now on the CS scene. And I think for Orcs like us, it's crazy. Obviously, it's tiring for players to travel very far. So that's something we need to take into account. And it's really good when the TOs manage to group the tournaments, like what we had with Chengdu, just followed by Hong Kong. They're competitors, Blast and ESL, but when they work well like that, it makes life easier for everyone. But besides travel and everything, I think it's insane for orgs like us because you have people that are not usually watching a Vitality game. They will go in an arena, they will see Apex, Zaiwu, they will buy Vitality jerseys. Local fans will love it. And then we can do activation with our partners. We go to our partners, say, hey, are you interested in a big activation in Brazil? Some will say, no, I have no business in Brazil. I don't care. Some others will say, wow, it's a big market for us. Let's do something big so we can do cool activations. And that's true for Brazil. That's true for many other countries. So overall, having a big variety of events worldwide is really positive for the scene and for orgs like us.
It's great. I would like to know how is for your team to choose what games you're going to invest. How is for you?
I think some games, they're a staple. Like, for example, when I said 2015, we realized League of Legends, the biggest game in the world. If we want to be a big org, we need to be in League. And a few years after, same for CS. If you want to be a big org, you have to be on the biggest game, no questions. There was a question for Dota. We never entered Dota. It's a game that we considered a very big game. It was too complex to enter. And now, I think, unfortunately for Dota, I think it's less appealing to join. Just my view on the game. Maybe I don't see it at the same level of League, CS, and no Valorant. I see Dota more as a tier 2. But overall, the tier 1 games, you need to be in it if you want to be a top org, no question. So those ones, you try to find the right team, the right moment, but you just go in. Other games, then, they need to fill a specific purpose for us. I will take an example, Rocket League. It's, if you look at worldwide at Rocket League, it's at best a tier 3 esport. I don't know, you can debate that, but it's not a huge esport. But for France, Rocket League is incredible. You have 3 of the best teams in the world are the 3 big French teams, Vitality, Carmine, Gentlemate. The best player in the world then is French. The fans, they're crazy. Rocket League World Championship was in Lyon in France last year. It was insane. So we need to be in Rocket League. It's our French team, French core, French roots. Other games like EAFC, formerly FIFA, it's a small esport, but it's great because thanks to that, we have a big partnership with Paris Saint-Germain. It's very tactical, very interesting to have that. It's good for the brand. That's it. For some other games, the purpose they feel is really we develop in new territories. And when we signed Jeonding on Tekken, we want to establish Vitality brand in South Korea, for example. It's the same with Mobile Legends in Indonesia. So overall, we need a reason to go to games, and that reason is several. It's a combination of factors. What has changed recently, let's say up until 2023, we had a strong belief that we needed to stop expanding overall unless crazy opportunity. For example, Fortnite, when it happened, you needed to be in Fortnite. It was so big. It was such a phenomenon. You need to be in Fortnite. Then we all realized it's a bit of a complex esport, and Epic is not really fan of esports, and it was really messy. But okay, at least at the beginning, it's so big, you need to be part of it. But besides huge moments or a breakthrough game like that, we said it's too much. If we do too many teams, we start to lose focus. We put less energy on the key teams that matter. We have less resources to spend on the key games. So let's stop expanding. So that was the overall thinking. But we still wanted to expand in new territories. We just said, yes, it's good, but it creates a lot of problems in the org, the bandwidth, the resource, the focus, the cost. So let's wait, or let's be super careful. And then what really obviously shook the status quo was the arrival of EWC, because suddenly having a lot of teams would help you to perform and maybe win Esports World Cup. So we said, okay, it's good to perform in Esports World Cup, but that cannot be the only reason. We want to use Esports World Cup as kind of a shortcut. For example, we love the idea of going to South Korea. We could not do it, but no, if we do it, maybe we'll spend money, but we'll get that money back through club championship. So in a way, it's a free pass or a less risky way to get to what we wanted to do in the first place, but we couldn't really do. So thanks to Esports World Cup, we expanded on many new scenes, keeping always the tactical component and the reasons to do it. We never want to enter a game when it's only to score Esports World Cup points. We want to enter games where it achieves several things, and obviously it brings points so it can pay back the investment we've put in the team. So overall, Esports World Cup has changed the dynamic we had in the previous years.
Nice. Sorry for the joke, but you said that you have to pay attention because you don't want to have a lot of teams. But
And
before
we have so many.
yes, you have.
That's why I'm saying it changed. That changed the recent years, yes.
And the other thing that you said that for me it was different. It was both, for example, Rocket League. In Brazil, no one plays that almost.
Yeah.
But I was living in Australia last year, and it's
Okay.
huge there. In Australia is huge too. You know, this is something really nice about esports. The culture change
Yes,
everything,
exactly.
you know. It's really strange. And I'm going to talk about, I push that time of Australia because it was something that makes me think, and I would like to see your opinion about that. In Australia, I think most of the esports, when they talk about sports, is general about the real esport. You know, for example, they have like racing cars, they have like even triathlon or bicycle in a esports modality. What do you think about that? I see that you have, for example, racing in Team Vitality. How do you see like the normal modality, for example, like I said, racing or cycling in esports? Do you think that maybe this is going to be like a future, something that you have to pay attention?
I don't know. The relationship between sports and esports has always been something debatable, special. So for years we had that question: is esports a sport? And obviously, after some point, we stopped answering that question. Like, you can think whatever you want. We think it's a sport because we think a sport is all about competition at the highest level, much more importantly than the physical movements and everything. And anyway, it's very physical to perform at the highest level in esports because of the concentration, focus that's required for hours. You need to be in shape, you need to be concentrated, you need to be perfectly ready for those moments. So there is certainly a big physical burden about playing esports at the highest level, but I'm not that interested in that question overall. People can think whatever they want. But the bridges between the two, I don't know. I mean, sim racing is very special because I think that's the only esports or video games where your skills almost perfectly translate to the real equivalent of the sport. If you're a good sim racer, a good driver on video games, you most likely will be a good driver in real life. If you're a good driver in real life, you will most likely be a good driver in sim racing. It's not perfectly the same. Some guys will do better in a real car. Some others will do better in the simulator or in the game. But overall, it's the same skill. You need the same coordination, eye-hand, the same decision-making, the same, all of that. But that's very specific to sim racing, and I don't think you have many other examples of that. So I put that in a specific categories. For the rest, it's not very clear where you draw the line. But for us, we want to be very flexible about what esport can be. That's why we added chess, for example. I think I love chess. I think it's great. Is it an esport? Is it a sport? I don't know. We think it makes sense in the overall portfolio of Vitality Games. But yeah, I don't know exactly how to answer that question because it's still different things, but I don't know where to draw the line exactly. What's a sport? What's an esport? Sometimes it's a bit more blurry.
No, but the question is not like if it is sports or not sports. How do you see that? You see that it's something that in the future more people are going to practicing, like for example, cycling in esports, because
Yeah.
like the how can I say
So for
that?
example, things like Zwift or stuff like that, where
Yes,
you cycle
or
in
for
front.
example, cycling, because cycling now you have like some tournaments that they are online, and the idea is because in some countries they have like extreme weather, for example, too cold or too hot,
Ah,
and they are usually cycling in an online one.
I lost you guys for a minute. Can you
Don't
hear?
worry. Yes, I can hear. Can you
Okay.
hear?
Sorry, so can you repeat the question on cycling? Sorry.
No, don't worry. I asked it because, like, for example, the idea of these tournaments for example, cycling online, they usually ask me for like, but you could do like in the real life cycling, but the project is because like some countries, for example, Canada, in winter it's almost impossible you cycling because it's too cold, or in Dubai, for example, in the summer it's almost impossible. My question is more like you think that it's going to be like every time more people are going to compete, or you think that it's more like a hobby, for example?
I don't know. And by the way, I don't think I can have a very strict definition on those things because, again, it's a bit blurry. But at the end of the day, my view right now, today, I see that kind of a digital cycling or Zwift or whatever, more of an extension of the real sport and less of an esport because at the end of the day, it's the same skills. If you're good at cycling in real life, you will be good on your home trainer that's plugged to your screen and your simulator. It's the same thing. Your strengths perfectly translate or almost perfectly, whereas every esport, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, whatever, it's a unique skill set, very unique to that game. And that's what makes me interested in it, by the way. So why I think the challenge or the issue we have with things that are replicating sports, EAFC, for example, was never a good esport because people want to watch the real product. They want to watch football. I think the same for digital cycling or whatever. You want to see Tour de France. You don't want to see people in their room competing. So overall, a lot of people will do that because it's convenient. But to me, it's more of an extension of the real sport and nothing else. But I have nothing against it, by the way. But
No, don't
it's
worry.
just not appealing to us right now.
Yeah.
Wow. I was wondering if in the French scene in sports, you guys have a specific mindset, or like what is the biggest difference from French scenario in esports than other countries?
Um, I think French is, but you know that in Brazil, but one of the specifics of French is we are a very passionate country, are very proud. So the fans are really crazy, especially in events. You go to an event, an esport event in France, and then you go to an esport event in Germany. No offense to German, but it's not the same vibe at all. It's much funnier, much more, much nicer, much more noise, excitement in the French arena. That's just the culture we have also as supporters in arena. So I think it plays a big role. And then no, it's just a very strong market with a lot of people playing, a lot of also streamers, influencers. So it creates a ton of attention. And I think it's, to me, France is one of the top 3 markets in esports in the world. So it's a very difficult thing to assess because what are the metrics? I don't know. But you have China, you have France, you have South Korea, you have maybe Brazil, maybe the US, but I'm not sure at all in terms of level of excitement. I think it's going rather downhill. So you have 4 or 5 countries that are really standing out. Spain, you might consider it is, but maybe Spain is just like France, but with a little less fans, but it's kind of the same vibe. You have certain countries that are special about esports, and France is one of those. And
Nice.
also in France, very interestingly, we have a lot of players that are legendary players in many games. Obviously, having Zaiwu is crazy. Having Zen in Rocket League, we had Seb in Dota. So we had K-Dop in Rocket League back in the day. So a lot of Yellow Star in League, a lot of incredible champions. I think we are one of the countries that produce a lot of top players. There are others, but I think France is really good in that aspect.
Yes,
Nice.
of course.
But I think that maybe it's just a snowball, right? Because
Um,
Caillou, 1 second, guys. He left. I think the internet is stopped.
okay.
Yeah, he is coming back.
But I don't
No,
know
don't
if
worry,
it's
don't
on
worry.
my side or in yours. I don't know what's happening. Sorry.
I think it's your side because we are here, but that's okay. Don't worry. That's okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
You are going to the final part, but before the question, I would like to say, like, for example, you say that France they have like really good ones, but I think this is like a snowball, right? Because the more people have good, more people are going to play, and if you have
Sure.
more players playing, the probability for you having someone good is much bigger. You are
Yes.
going to the last two questions. Sorry, you can say.
No,
Don't
go
worry.
on, go on, go on.
Last two questions, and one question is about that. You said that you have a lot of good players in France, and now you are going to have the Nations Cup.
Yeah.
You are involved in some way for France. What you expected from France? How do you see that?
I'm not involved anymore because, and I don't. It's a super long story, so I make it super short. But
Okay.
we had a huge conflict in France between the clubs union, where I'm president of club union, on top of being CEO of Vitality. Conflict between us and the other applicant, which is an association called France Esports. That we don't think is very representative of France Esports because all of the big companies in France are not part of this association, but because of political connection and a very complex situation, at some point, the Saudis organizing ENC where they were saying, "Hey, it's too complicated. France is too complicated. You guys figure out your shit. We don't want to be involved." So they did not select anyone basically. And we at the club union we withdrew our bid to be the national partner. We said we don't want to do it anymore. It was too complex, political stuff that I really don't like. But anyway, it was a very long story. Ultimately, in France, there is no national team partner like you have in many countries. I think in Brazil, it's an alliance of the biggest clubs, if I'm right. That Jamie explained that a bit to me. That's really good. France has no national team partner. There's only a national team manager, which is Yellow Star, obviously legendary League of Legends player. And that's good, but let's say will not have the same resources that other countries will get for marketing, content, commercialization. But he will take care of the selection of players, and I think that's very exciting. I think we have a lot of potential in many games. It's unfortunate that the Counter-Strike ENC tournament is happening at the same time as one of the blasts. So I think all of the top players will not play ENC. So Counter-Strike will not be a big tier 1 tournament this year. Maybe it will change in 2028. But for the other games, I think you will have the best players present. And France is good in many games. We have our shot, beat Rainbow Six, Rocket League, other games. We are very good in many games. So I'm excited to see France compete. In fighting games, we also have a lot of top talent. So I'm excited as a viewer because now I'm not involved anymore. I will just be a viewer and I will enjoy and root for France. And I think we can be one of the good teams.
Nice.
What about
Great.
Brazil? You're confident?
Depends on the game.
Yes, I guess.
Depends.
Yes. So as you're CEO of a big company, I would like to know if you play some games because you said you came from a very traditional place before the sport. So do you play something?
So I always loved video games, but I was not really, before starting Vitality, I was not really playing free-to-play multiplayer games or esports games. But when I started Vitality and I realized we needed to be in League of Legends, I said, I need to understand this game. So I played League of Legends like crazy. I think I was playing 1,000 ranked a year for a few years. So a lot of League of Legends, way too much. And then someday I completely stopped this game because it was too much. And nowadays I play Counter-Strike, but I'm really bad. So it's just to have a fun time with my friends. They're all much better. I'm CEO of Vitality, so somewhere it's still exciting to play with me, but I'm just a terrible player in CS. And then no, I don't play a lot of esports game because I'm not that good, point one. And if you're not gifted in a game, then you will need to spend thousands of hours to really start mastering a few things. And I just don't have the time to do that anymore between family, friends, the work, obviously. So yeah, no, I don't invest the time as I used to do.
This is crazy because before our last question, I would like to say that sometimes you are not bad in the Counter-Strike. Sometimes you are just playing with people, they are really good because you know the best players
I
in
will
the
say that.
world.
Oh, no, okay. I'm not bad. My friends are just very good. Okay, good.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that because I imagine that when you play, it's with people who live the game. So
No, but I don't play with Zyward. I don't want
okay.
to make them lose their time. It's fine.
Our last question, and for us, like the most important for our podcast, is like if you have to give one advice for someone who is starting in career today, I would like to split in two questions. That
Sure.
for someone who wants to start in the career and someone who is already started, but he wants to internationalize is correct. Is making the career international. How advice you would give for these two people?
So starting in esports right now, I think it's much more difficult than what we did 13 years ago. Starting your company, I think it's quite difficult, especially on the team side, because the barrier of entry to enter games is a lot of money. Not only money, but many games are somewhat closed. So you need the leagues are more or less, you have agreements in place with teams. So grinding the ladder of establishing your org is difficult. So my advice on the team side or that kind of things is I suggest that I will separate in two for that question. If you want to start an esport business, my advice would be start to find your own niche. So it can be mobile gaming, can be whatever new game that's not big yet, but you believe is your passion. Because if you want to do everything, if you want to go on the big games, you have the big guys already established. So it's a bit difficult to get there. So find a niche, be the best in that niche. And if that grows, then you can start establishing your org based on that success, existing success. If you want to work in esports overall as an employee, I think very simple advice: you learn proper skills in finance, marketing, whatever, and then you try to get the jobs in esports. It's difficult because there are not that many, but if you bring good skills to the table plus a lot of passion for the environment, you have a good shot at working in esports. But you need the skill set, you need to be expert on something. Just loving esports will not work, obviously. Nowadays, it worked when we started, but doesn't work anymore. And then the question of how do we internationalize? It's super difficult. And I think for Vitality, now we can say we got there. And obviously, in fact, it's a process that's on an ever-going, continuous process. And so that we're still getting more and more and more international. But it took years. And especially, I think, for countries like France or Brazil, those are countries that are different. I don't know, if you're German, you will already work in English. It's very natural. In France, we speak French. That's our culture and everything. So we are not immediately international. It requires a lot of effort from the management perspective. That meant that we had to do a clear plan. We want to be more international. What does it mean? What's the percentage of employees, percentage of players, percentage of partners? All of that are goals, and you try to push on all fronts to get there and measure the progress. But it's a very long and tough process, and it took years for us before we could say, "Hey, we're an international organization." It's very difficult. And you need the culture and the intent coming from the management and said again and again and again.
Wow, thank you so much to say
Thanks
that.
a lot.
This is amazing, and thank you so much to have you here. It was a pleasure to have you here in sports. Thank you so much. And I would like to see if you Want to say anything for the people who's watching?
Thanks for having me, and I want to say that I love the Brazilian fans, and I think it's a crazy sport country, and I hope we can. I think if we win our quarters in Rio, we play maybe Furia in semis. I don't know if I'm correct about the bracket, but I absolutely want this game to happen and see the crowd all against us and rooting for Furia, and obviously we win this one. That would be a fun
No, of
one.
course not. I love you guys. I am like, for me, it's Furia, but after is Team Vitality. But in this
Okay,
game,
that's fair.
Furia is
That's
going to
fair. It's
win.
okay. And again, they are good friends, so all good. But I'd rather win
Yeah.
this time.
Uh, but thank you very much again, Nicolas.
Yes, thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot. This was for the
Thank
great
you,
conversation.
Giovanna. And guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you tomorrow.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.